The honourable member for Carleton.
Just because the Prime Minister dressed up in racist costumes so many times he can't remember them all doesn't mean every single Liberal is a racist. Just because the Prime Minister had tried to help a corporation avoid prosecution after it stole from some of Africa's poorest people doesn't mean all Liberals are racist. Just because about a half dozen Liberal MPs who are racial minorities have complained about his treatment of them does not mean that all Liberals are racist. Exactly. That is guilt by association. Why doesn't the Prime Minister opt instead for personal responsibility?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I hope that I've been clear in all of my comments, that I respect the honourable colleagues on the other side, just as I believe they respect the colleagues that are on this side and the work that we do and the people that we are. There are times in our political discourse where we see things that are abhorrent, and all I would ask is that we equally call it out. When I saw swastikas on the street, when I saw what had happened, it's time to move on. And what I would ask is, instead of trying to inflame the situation, let us de-escalate the situation. Let us work together to find a way to stop the lockdown that is happening of this city, so that citizens can move forward with their lives and any legitimate grievances can be fairly heard.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I agree. We should always call out evil symbols and the individuals who are individually responsible for putting them up. I remember a January 2018 event where the Prime Minister stared straight at a swastika and, instead of condemning it, said, "Thank you for coming, sir." We on this side condemn evil symbols whenever they are used. I do respect that member. I just wish his government would respect the thousands of people who are fighting for their livelihoods right now, who are trying to do the best to get this country back on track.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
We are in a time of global crisis, a time when so many are being adversely affected by this pandemic, and our hearts go out to every one of them. The way in which we have discourse for each other will define this moment for all of us. And to those that are peacefully protesting, I would ask that their point has been made. It's time to go home and do it a different way. That continuing to lock down this city and continuing to do what's happening, it is deeply disturbing for Canadians to see the way that this city and our symbols are being treated. And I would ask the Conservatives to also join with us to ask that they go home, and let's do this responsibly. Let's have responsible dialogue. I respect the member opposite. Let's do this the right way.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, the problem is they've shown no respect for the people. This country right now is like a raw nerve, and the Prime Minister is jumping up and down on it again and again with his inflammatory rhetoric. We're talking about people who have 14-year-old kids that are suicidal after 2 years of lockdowns. I just spoke to a waitress whose business was wiped out by lockdowns. I'm talking to truckers who've been serving food on our plates throughout this, and these are the very people, honest, hardworking, shirt off your back type of people that this Prime Minister keeps attacking.
The Honourable Government House Leader. We'll wait to start the time. Okay, very good. Please go.
Mr. Speaker, again, I encourage the member to just think about, if he's talking about de-escalating and having civil discourse, his tone and how he's approaching this issue. This is a time that is incredibly delicate. We are in a moment where there is a raw nerve that is being touched. How we talk to each other, Mr. Speaker, how we deal with one another.
I'm going to interrupt the Honourable Government House Leader and just wait till everything calms down a moment, and then I'll let him start from the top, because I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to hear it all, and I'm sure the Honourable Member from Carleton asked a question he wanted an answer to, and he wants to hear it, and we're just not hearing anything because of the noise. The Honourable Government House Leader, please proceed.
I have an instinct, and that instinct is that Canadians expect us today, when they're seeing what's happened over this weekend, to watch the dialogue in this chamber be as respectful as possible, for us to dial down our rhetoric and our language, for us to engage in one another and find an off-ramp from the escalation that has occurred, because this is not healthy. In a healthy democracy, we have respectful debates that don't involve some of the things that we've seen. And all I'm asking for is for us to engage in a constructive way. So if we could attempt in this place, in this hour, to be equal to that, I hope that we can move forward on that basis, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Carleton.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And Mr. Speaker, I was out at an overpass as the truckers went by. And what I saw were cheerful, patriotic, optimistic Canadians who want their freedom back and want their livelihoods back. And they're standing up for their fellow Canadians, the 60% of families who fear they can't feed themselves. The 28-year-old kid living in mom's basement because he can't afford a home. The small businessman wiped out by endless lockdowns by incompetent politicians. These are the people that are standing up and fighting for their livelihoods and their freedom. Why won't the government finally stand with them?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I have a fundamental difference, and that is that I don't believe that my enemy is across the aisle. I believe that our enemy is this pandemic, and that our enemy is ending this pandemic and getting everybody to get vaccinated and to move forward in a way where the concerns that he's talking about, being affected by a global crisis, means that they are supported. This is a time of collective trauma. It requires us to be compassionate, to work with another, and understand that our common enemy is the virus and not one another.
L'Honorable Lisker.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians want to see a leader who will work to heal rifts, not further divide. A leader who will listen, even to those voices he might not agree with. The leader who will work to understand, not dismiss, name call, and gaslight. Contrary to some, there are thousands of passionate, patriotic, and peaceful Canadians on the Hill right now who just want to be heard. Will the Prime Minister extend an olive branch, and will he listen?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I think we all support free speech in this House, but there's a big difference between free speech and inciting hatred, inciting violence, desecrating war memorials, Mr. Speaker. And I would hope my honourable colleague would denounce that in the clearest terms, Mr. Speaker. Those radical leaders are not really interested in free speech because they want to pretend as though vaccines don't work. On this side of the House, we know vaccines work. That's the gateway to freedom, and this government will do everything that we can to get there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ladies, gentlemen, troops, fighters, everybody in Canada that just heard Justin Trudeau's update, that is 100% a lie. Everything in that speech is a lie. He does not speak for veterans. I am a veteran. Justin Trudeau has not fought for anything in his life. He has been spoon-fed by the golden spoon of his father, and he'll never know what it's like to suffer on the battlefields of any kind. Everything he just said to you was 100% a lie. I have boots on the ground in Ottawa right now. That is why I am here, to represent the veteran voice. And all of the people from New Brunswick and all of the people from my community, I am here. That's what he addressed us with. He increased hate. He increased division. He is trying to make us fight amongst each other because he is scared. I have personally been to the Terry Fox Memorial. I have personally been to the War Memorial. They are perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, they have blanketed them in roses. Blanketed them in roses.
Member for Portage Lisker.
Of course, we all condemn hateful and destructive acts by a few at any protest. Whether it's beheading the statue of Queen Victoria in Manitoba, tearing down the statue of Sir John A. in Montreal, or putting flags on Terry Fox, whether it's burning churches, whether it's wearing blackface, whether it's Hezbollah flags or Nazi flags, we all condemn it. But I'm not talking about that, Mr. Speaker.
You might want to stay down. You might want to stay down.
The Honourable Minister empty.
Mr. Speaker, let's be abundantly clear that those individuals who've called for the incitement of violence to overthrow this government, who have caused significant disruption by flagrantly ignoring public health care measures that have forced shops and businesses to close, that have desecrated war memorials, are not interested in free speech, they're not interested in discourse, and they're certainly not interested in advancing our way out of this pandemic, Mr. Speaker. This government will always listen to those who want to have a robust debate about public health care measures, but we have to draw a bright line between those who are interested in that debate and those who are not.
Portage Lister.
Well, that minister is not telling the truth, and it's shameful to see what he is doing. Accusing Canadians of being...
Order. I think both sides are very truthful in saying what they say. Whether they agree with it or not is something that is another story. But calling someone who's calling them a name or accusing them of something is not permitted in the House. I'll let the honourable member for Portage Lister start from the top, and I'm sure she'll ask the question correctly.
Mr. Speaker, and I apologize that minister is misleading Canadians. I do get very defensive of Canadians who are outside today, patriotic, peace-loving Canadians who are called misogynist and racist by the Prime Minister. So again, I will ask the Prime Minister, who, may I remind this House, wore blackface on more times than he can remember, apologize to the peace-loving, patriotic Canadians who are outside right now just asking to be heard. Will he speak to them?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this is a moment where we have to acknowledge that the protests that have occurred have made their point. And I would ask the member opposite to encourage the people that are outside to continue in a way that is peaceful, that moves beyond what we have seen. Ottawa is being paralyzed right now. We're seeing imagery that's not appropriate.
I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister to hold on for a second. Because I'm sure the Honourable Member for Portage Lister wants to hear an answer to the question she asked. I'll let the Honourable Minister continue from where he left off.
I'll just say this, Mr. Speaker. I was in opposition. I was in opposition for about 7 years. And there were times where I was overheated in my rhetoric. There were moments where I got too carried away with what I believed passionately at the time. There is a moment where we need to de-escalate. There's a moment where we need to bring it down. And I'm asking the members opposite, instead of going outside with these protests, to...
Stand on guard for thee, God keep our land, glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. What's your message to the Canadians? The message to the Canadians is, look at the facts, look at the truth, look at all these changes. We are not in a right position now to stay this way. It is time to change.
Guys, sending love from Renfrew, Ontario. Go get them, boys and girls.
I'm Tim. I'm Tony. I'm Maggie. And we're from Manila, Alberta. Thank you for fighting for our freedoms.
Love you guys. You guys are the best, and waiting for you in Ottawa.
Thank you for fighting for us truckers. Thank you for fighting us for truckers. It's Riley in Brooklyn, and we just wanted to say that we appreciate your loyalty for standing up for our freedom.
To all you truckers out there, be safe. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow in a Big 10-4.
Big 10-4 rubber ducky.
Hi, my name's Nicholas. I'm Indigenous, and I like to support my trucker.
Thank you, truckers. Good night. Thank you. I'm Jason.
Thanks again, Bobby.
You guys.
Favorite vehicle is trucks too.
Thank you guys so much for everything you're doing. Us students here at Briarcrest are very happy and thankful for you guys fighting for us.
A big thank you to all the truck drivers that's heading into Ottawa. We support you 100%. Thank you for what you do. Keep up the amazing work.
For your loyalty for standing up for the government.
Have safe drives, truckers.
I'm from Ottawa, and you got all my support.
God bless you all, honorable men and women, for waking up Canada. Get rolling there, guys. Good work.
God bless all the truckers and we're fighting for our freedoms. From Iowa family, we love you all. Stay safe and stay strong. 10-4.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm down here with a police officer in Ottawa. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
How's it been down here?
Nothing but good. People are super good. The truckers have been having a good time. They've been getting their point across. And you know what? It's a beautiful city that we're in, and they can't ignore all of this.